Welcome, low-ego action heroes. I'm Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We are a full-service CX and UX consultancy, and this is my Axure 10 Core Skills course. I've been using Axure since February 2011, and I've been teaching it for many, many years, and in fact, I've been one of Axure's recommended trainers since 2014. This course is designed to take you from super Axure newbie or Axure afraid all the way through to confident intermediate. So if you've landed on this one video, there are many, many others. Please check our Axure lessons playlist for a lot more videos about using Axure. The Delta CX YouTube channel has over 500 videos on it as of when I'm recording this in December 2021, and I hope you'll subscribe and join in some of our live streams. I'm live usually 3 or 4 times a week with teaching UX research and design, talking about CX, helping people get into the profession, helping leaders and managers, and of course, don't forget Tuesday, office hours, Ask Me Anything. So subscribe and hang out here. So thanks for being here. Please subscribe and let's jump into that next Axure lesson.
Let's take a look at iFrames. Now, the iFrame has its own widget, and you might be thinking, what is an iFrame or inline frame? The inline frame is when something on the page scrolls unto itself, like sometimes you see pages that have a Twitter feed, and the Twitter feed has its own scroll bar, but the rest of the page doesn't move. That can be done 2 ways in Axure. One way is the iFrame, then I'll show you the other way. So to use the iFrame, we just drag it out, and we can make it any size that we like. And you can see here in style, we can hide the borders of it if we don't want there to be a hard line around it. We can decide whether or not it scrolls and things like that. So next we have to say the frame target. In Axure, for an iFrame, you have to put in either another Axure page from your prototype or an external URL. So for example, let's say we chuck page 1 in here. So now we've got, let's see if we can do anything with the preview. Axure used to not show the preview, but it looks like a big nothing now. But if we preview it, we'll see the page we put in. Okay, and since we have scrolling on, we have scroll bars here that would allow us to scroll through this page. So again, this would be a way to bring in another page from somewhere else. Now you might think that maybe you should put a PDF in an iFrame, but as you can see, Nielsen Norman Group says, for the love of the God of your choice, maybe we shouldn't be using so many PDFs. Do not use PDFs to present digital content. That should be a web page. PDFs shouldn't be read online. As of 1996, you can go through this page yourself. They've got a lot of interesting tips about PDFs, but let's face it, even when we know that PDFs are the wrong way to go, someone's going to tell you to put a PDF in this page so that people can read terms and conditions they'll never read. Now, of course, you could put those terms and conditions into another Axure page and PDF them into that, and then it's scrollable. I'm sorry, not PDF, iFrame into that, and then it's scrollable. But let's take a look at what if we really did want to put a PDF in here. A common example might be something like these American tax instruction documents. So let's grab the URL for that and jump back into Axure and say, instead of the reference page being page 1, let's say that it's an external URL or a file local to us, and we'll give that a try. And now we can refresh, see how that looks. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing pretty about that, but we've all been asked to do this on websites at one time or another. And of course, notice that I could make this taller if I wanted to. I'm not locked to the size that the the iframe previously was. But just remember that you can't really use percentages in Axure, so you have to go with one size, and you have to kind of stop there. It's not going to understand a certain percentage height or width. You've just got to pick a fixed size. Now, another way to do something like an iframe, but different from an iframe, would be with a dynamic panel. So let's imagine that we've got a dynamic panel. We can do more than imagine. We can bring one out. And let's not pick fit to content. And let's get, I'll give it a name. I like to give it a name. We'll call it the content panel. And I will go into it and I will isolate it and I will drop lots of stuff into it by throwing in some paragraphs. And let's imagine that there's a lot of text in here. So I'm going to double click and select all and copy, enter, enter, paste, enter, enter, paste. I'm just going to imagine that we have some sort of large block of content. Notice I'm coloring a little bit outside of the lines here, so I'm going to need to bring this in a bit. Let's try that. Now I've left some room here because we want a scroll bar, because there is a way to have a dynamic panel, have a scroll bar, and be a scrollable area unto itself. Again, cute for Twitter streams or press release lists, things like that is how I sometimes see these used, but you can come up with your own method. Now, with fit to content, Axure would say, yep, you got a giant panel, here's everything. But if we turn off fit to content, we can decide the size of this panel. So I can say, okay, this panel is not going to be this long on the page. We all agreed it's going to be, let's say it's going to be 300 wide, and it's going to be 300 tall. And that means that to see the rest of the content, people are going to need to scroll. Now, when you click on a dynamic panel and you come over to style, we've looked at fit to content, we've looked at fit to browser, pin to browser. I've got a video later that will talk about 100% wide. That'll be in the pinning panels lesson, but we didn't look at scrolling. So never scroll, of course, means your dynamic panel has no scroll bars, which will be most of the dynamic panels you build. You can also say scroll as needed, where Axure will add left or right scroll bars and up or down scroll bars if it sees you having more content than the space of the locked panel size. Or you can just say only scroll vertical or only scroll horizontal. So if I say scroll vertical and then we refresh this page, now we've got this. And this works both with the way my trackpad does scrolling, so it'll work with a mouse wheel, or, of course, people can grab the scroll bar and drag it. Now, currently, Axure does not have a great way to customize the look of the scroll bar. As far as I know, there isn't or at least as of when I'm recording this, there isn't an easy way to visually design your scroll bar, because this is just a dynamic panel. So you can see it doesn't even have a global widget style. You can't style the panel. I mean, we could try to we could give the panel a shadow. That would be cheesy, but it doesn't really address the look of the scroll bar. Now, I do show more advanced scroll bars in my advanced course, but again, I remind people that chances are you are not usability testing a scroll bar, and even if you are, you're probably not usability testing the visual design of a scroll bar. If you are testing that, then of course you'll need to make this more realistic. But for 99.8% of our uses, I say go with Axure's old school medium fidelity scroll bar, which will look like whatever your operating system and your browser uses as a default scroll bar. I'm on Windows and this is Firefox, so this is my scroll bar. And I would say just leave it. Now, if you find that the scroll bar is too close to the words, of course, you can spread it out a bit. You know, you could make this wider. That would move the scroll bar away from the words. But again, we don't have a lot of options on this scroll bar. It is not customizable. I can't say it's this many pixels wide, or it's this color, and this is what the icons look like. You can't do that. I've got a lesson on it in the advanced course, but for the beginner and intermediate things we're doing together in this course, just the scroll bar being there is good enough. If you want a box around this content or a background color on this content, you're going to need to style that yourself, but you should know what to do. Of course, you just go into your panel and you can drop some colors and shapes and whatever behind the panel, or you can give the entire panel a fill color. Soft peach. And that would now look like this. And again, if you don't like the margins on that, just move your widget. So I can change my margins by moving my widget. So now it would have those margins. And again, it's not that looks better. That might look worse, but there you go. You have the control over that. If you feel like the bottom ends too abruptly, make your text widget longer. Add a hotspot down there so that there's invisible space being taken up by something. So that would look like this. I can drag in a hotspot. And now, again, even if the hotspot has no interactions, it's still acting as an invisible placeholder. And we can create a little placeholder like that and end up with that. So those are two ways to have kind of sub-scrollable areas on your page. The iFrame widget, where you're dropping in a page either from your prototype or from outside of your prototype, and also the dynamic panel. Now, another use for the iFrame widget would be, what if we want to drop in or embed a YouTube video? You might imagine that for the purposes of your prototype, at some point people are going to click something and maybe a light box comes up with a video in it. Let's take a look at that. So coming back to my iFrames page, I can create another dynamic panel. Oh, I have gone all funky there. Oops, let's do an emergency reset view. Phew. All right, so this dynamic panel, let's imagine it's going to be my video lightbox panel, and we'll drop a video into it. And then, of course, the question is, how big is this panel, which is probably going to be the size of or slightly larger than the video that we want. We might also want to pin this to the browser so that when this comes up, it is center and middle. So yes, center, middle, keep in front. And now let's go into the panel content and let's drop in that YouTube video. So we've got a state already. Let's do view all and isolate it. I'm going to grab my iframe and I will put it at the 0, 0 in the state of the panel and expand it. Now that's if you want it to be absolutely full width. If you were going to add a call to action or an X to close it at the top, then chances are your video is a little bit smaller than the rest of the panel. But again, this is up to you and you'll know how to do this. I don't have to tell you, you know it from other lessons now. So we now need to tell the system that we are going to put in the frame target, and this is going to be that YouTube video. Now I can jump into my here's one of the videos from my Delta CX channel. It is definitely the funniest as of now, and it is a look at what the heck is design thinking and what isn't design thinking. Now if we want to embed this video, we would go to share, and then we would go to embed. And YouTube likes to give you a big block of code for embedding, but we don't actually need this because Axure is already building the iframe for us. We just need the URL of the video itself. So that would mean the part from HTTPS through, let's see if I can move around with my mouse a little bit and show you, HTTPS through the end of that source. So whatever is inside of the quotation marks for the source of the iframe, that's what you want to copy. Another neat thing about this is that it doesn't force the height and the width, which the rest of this iframe code would. And you can also, if you need to start it at a certain time, you would choose to start it at a certain time. and notice that gets added to the URL. So again, if you were grabbing the URL, it would be everything inside the quotes, including the start equals, and it's the number of seconds in. So I can X that out, and then I can come back to Axure, and I can say my frame target is here, with or without the start equals whatever. I can say OK. And now let's say this is hidden by default. And let's say that there's a button that we have that will inspire this to pop up. I'll call this the video button. By now you know how to build this. You're just going to say, when people click this, show that video lightbox panel, maybe with a lovely fade in, up to you. And of course we want that treat as lightbox, maybe with that background color, so that we've screened everything else out. So let's refresh and give it a try. And the cool thing is that it will automatically size to whatever size you made that iFrame widget. So if you need small videos and you need a whole bunch of small videos on a page, you just make that widget smaller. It also has all the controls here, so we can actually run this right now and it will function as a real YouTube video. Chances are you can embed things other than YouTube videos. You could certainly put in Vimeo or whatever will give you appropriate embed code that you could use in this place. So that's usually all I say about iFrames and scrolling sub-panels. So hopefully that's helpful and you find some uses for it, and I'll see you in the next video.